person for this one, so perfect. It's great. But it'll be here for posterity, I think.
It was interesting about the olives matching up with
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Are there other fruits that match up with other?
Not really. That's as far as I know. That's the association that I have. Okay, so we're going to talk a little more about the 10th of Tevet. Yesterday we did some of the meaning, the reasons why we fast, what we're commemorating. We talked about this, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th of Tevet. And just earlier we were noticing that it's funny. One of the things that Ezra is praised for, Ezra being so great that we fast for him, like he was second to Moshe, was that he was a translator of the Torah. It says that when he came he made a gathering and he taught the people Torah, and he made the Aramaic translation of the Torah. The first one so that the people, the exiles who came back to the land of Israel from Babylon, they would be able to understand it. That was the lingua franca of the time. So Ezra was praised for translating the Torah. And then the previous day we fasted on the 8th of Tevet because the Torah was translated. And that was a bad thing. We're so sad that the Torah is translated. Is it good to translate? Yeah, the Greek ruler forced the sages to translate the Torah into Greek. So is it a good thing to translate the Torah? A bad thing to translate the Torah? If it's so bad, why did Ezra do it? And it's obviously...
It's based on intent and like where you are in the power structures, because the Greeks wanted to, essentially when they translated the Torah into the Septuagint, they use it as a way to facilitate more assimilation. Oh, the Torah's already in Greek, now we can appropriate Jewish culture and make you more Greek. That's why it's so sad.
Very good, and I thank Hirsch for bringing to me this beautiful book yesterday when we were discussing the topic. It's called Torah Eretz Yisrael. It's a book of the teachings of Tzvi Yehuda Cohen Cook, put together by Rabbi David Sampson. And in the introduction, the very beginning is an approbation, some kind of a foreword by Rav Avrum, that's the way he was known. Avrum, his name is Avraham Shapira, who was the former chief rabbi of Israel and the former head of the Merkaz Harav Yeshiva, just down the block.
I know there's a very famous photo of him talking with Rav Kook, the son, Tzvi Yehuda Kook.
I imagine there's many. He was a big student of his for many years and took over the yeshiva when Rav Tzvi Yehuda died.
I have a question.
Yes.
Also on the 9th of Tevet, did Ezra die? Because I know that there were three. So eighth day, the sages were forced to translate into Greek.
Right.
9th Ezra dies.
Right. Exactly. So, in his introduction to the book, he raises this question, and he says in the name of Tzvi Yehuda the answer that it depends on the status of the Jewish people. If we're in a position of strength, like in the time of Moshe, of course we're ready to spread the gospel, as they say. We have what we want to say to the world, so it's a good thing to translate that to everybody. But in the Second Temple time, we were under duress. We were not at our best, and we were sort of forced to translate it from a place of weakness, and that was the distinction that Rav Tzvi Yehuda made. Rav Shapira took it one step further, and he said, "There's one more calculation. Just hang on a second, Hirsch." And he said, well, Ezra translated the Torah at a moment when we were weak. So if it's not a good thing, why was Ezra doing it at the same time? He said, obviously the bottom line is, it's the purpose. What's the purpose? If it's to engender assimilation, it's a bad thing, as Hirsch said. If it's to help Jews learn Torah, it's not only permitted, but it's a mitzvah. And of course, he was writing this introduction to the book in English, with translation, his teachers writing. And this is really just a little bit of a summary of what we talked about yesterday. Now I'll take your question.
So Jews used to fast on the 8th of Tevet. Did we also used to fast on the 9th as well?
Yes.
So all 3 days?
Yes. Luckily, we only do one day. Let's talk about some of the laws now. Today I want to dedicate the remaining few minutes that we have to the laws. So turn to page 127 in your book, Pnei Halacha Zamanim, chapter 7.
What time does the fast go till? Does it go till to sunset or 3 stars?
3 stars. It's about 5 o'clock today. Let's start reading page 127. Could someone read for me, please, out loud?
I volunteer to read.
Excellent.
The status of the minor fast today. When the prophets instituted the 4 fasts after the destruction of the first temple, they modeled them after the fast of Yom Kippur. This is how the sages usually enact decrees, modeling them after the Torah's commandments. Just as Yom Kippur lasts an entire day, from evening to evening, so too they instituted the 4 fasts as full-day fasts. Just as there are 5 prohibitions on Yom Kippur, eating, drinking, bathing, anointing oneself, wearing leather shoes, and engaging in sexual relations, so too they prohibited these things on the fast over the destruction of the temple. This is how the Jews observed these fasts throughout the 70-year Babylonian exile. Should I continue?
Yes, please.
When the exiles returned from Babylonia to build the second temple, these fasts were canceled and transformed into holidays. As it says,
And we read yesterday
thus said the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month,
and this morning.
in Tammuz, the fast of the 5th month, ninth of Av, the fast of the 7th month, Sion Gedalia, and the fast of the 10th month, 10th of Tevet, shall become occasions for joy and gladness, happy festivals for the house of Judah, but you must love honesty and integrity. Zechariah 8:19.
Keep going.
When the second temple was destroyed, however, the Jews reverted to observing these fasts, continuing to do so throughout the difficult years following the destruction of the second temple, during which the Bar Kokhba rebellion and the destruction of the Beitar in Judea took place. Thus, the status of these fasts depend on our national situation. At a time of evil decrees and persecution, we are obligated to fast, but when the temple is standing, these fasts become days of joy and gladness. In an intermediate situation, when, on the one hand, the temple is ruined, but on the other hand, there are no harsh decrees against us, as was the case during Ar Yehuda Hanasi's lifetime, the status of these facts depends on the will of the Jewish people. If they want, they fast. If they do not want, they do not fast. This applies to Asaria B'Tevet, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, and Sion Gedalia. Tisha B'Av, however, does not depend on the nation's will, and everyone is obligated to fast even in such an intermediate situation. Because of misfortune abound, and both temples were destroyed on that day. What is RH? Whatever RH.
Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah 18b. In practice, the Jewish people observe all the fasts, even in the intermediate situation, and therefore all Jews are obligated to fast on these days. This halacha applies until the temple is rebuilt, speedily in our days, when the fast days will become days of joy and gladness.
Okay, there's some people who are really excited about coming back to the reestablishment of the state of Israel, and they say we shouldn't fast anymore because these fasts. Forget about Tisha B'Av for a minute. The 3 more minor fasts. It really depends on our will. So if we collectively change our will and we just want to celebrate because we're rebuilding now, there's no destruction, we should be able to change that back. Technically, they're right, but we don't really have a consensus on that. And they're not allowed. You're not allowed to just go off on your own against the community. Bottom line is, he says in practice, Jewish people observe all the fasts, even in the intermediate situation. There are some outlying fringe groups, but they themselves, over the course of years, it's happened that there were these groups that started to say we're not going to fast, and then something happened in the country that they were very upset about. The government decision like this or like that, and they said, we should really fast also. It's still considered destruction, and we're upset, and there's always something the government's doing that you're upset about. And so, in the end of the day, everybody fasts these fasts, and we're waiting for better days. Yes, sure.
So these communities were able to do that. What if you have an Asura not to fast?
No such thing.
Sure there is. Your father doesn't fast, and his father doesn't fast, and his father didn't fast.
That wasn't a Masorah of Torah tradition. That was a lack of Torah tradition.
Right. So if you were never fasting,
That's
when
not-
should you start fasting?
You should keep the Jewish practice that all Jewish people keep. And sometimes there's, it happens that their parents didn't get the right education and they don't know, but that doesn't justify not fasting. Nice try. Yes, sure.
How do I spell your last name? Is B-U-R-G or B-E-R-G?
B-E-R-G.
B-E-R-G.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, next, the laws of the minor fasts. As we've learned, since we no longer suffer from harsh decrees and religious persecution, on the other hand, the whole temple still moves. The status of the minor fast currently depends on the will of the Jewish people. Just as the very application of the fast depends on Israel's desire, so too the other laws of the fast. And when the Jews accepted upon themselves to fast, during these intermediate periods, they did not agree to treat these fasts as strictly as they treat Yom Kippur. This is the fundamental difference between the three minor fasts and Tisha B'Av. Because so many hardships befell us on the 9th of Av, we're obligated to fast on that day, even during the intermediate period, and its laws remain as originally established. That means that the fast lasts for an entire 24 hours. And includes prohibition of bathing, applying ointments, wearing shoes, and engaging in sexual relations, just like in Yom Kippur. However, the laws of the other fasts that were instituted as a result of the destruction of the temple are more lenient. We fast only during the daytime. We are only prohibited from eating and drinking. We need not refrain from bathing and anointing ourselves, wearing shoes, engaging in sexual relations, and even as I got the shaila yesterday, you know what a shaila is?
Yes, it's a question. A matter of halakha.
Halachic question. Someone asked me, am I allowed to do my laundry on the 10th of Tevet? Where does this question come from?
Well, if you're not allowed to bathe yourself, why should you bathe your clothes?
No, but where does the question come from? Why would he think that you're not allowed to do your laundry?
People
stop on Kololeh, right? They stop.
Right, but that's not, that's because it's a festival. This is a day of mourning. Why is it a good question? Well, it's based on the fact that the 9th of Av, we all know, is another fast day. The days leading up to the 9th of Av, many times get the moniker the 9 days, because many of the people, Ashkenazi customs to start from the first day of Av. The 9 days from Rosh Chodesh until the 9th of Av is 9 days. And during those 9 days, the custom is you're not allowed to do laundry. And that's where it comes from. But not only do we not have any days leading up to Asara B'Tevet, the laws of Asara B'Tevet are not like the laws of Tisha B'Av. And you're allowed to bathe yourself, let alone your clothing, as Shua said correctly. Sorry. Shalosh. It's true. It's true. But the timing, we're going to talk about it more. Timing.
But somebody else is posting 4:59 and it seems way too early.
It's not. That's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's not
But now
wrong.
he says it's not wrong?
So you mean to tell
There's
me?
different ways of calculating Tzeit Kochavim. I was telling you to wait. We're going to talk about it, and then you.
So
I said we're going to cover it. So what do you? I just erased the post if I were.
Yeah.
I am amazed. I didn't know until just now,
Yes.
reading this,
Yes.
that on everything except the Tish B'Av
Mhm.
and Yom Kippur,
Yeah.
you can bathe, you can put on lotion,
Correct.
you can
Have sexual relations. Yes. Yes.
um,
Only 2 days a year that you're not allowed to have relations with your wife. I say this to some of my grooms who I usually give classes to, and it's a good starting point. Basic law is it's always permitted. Just 2 days a year, you're not allowed to. Of course, it depends on the woman's menstrual cycle. There's but in many periods of her lifetime, she doesn't have a menstrual cycle. It doesn't last forever. When a woman is pregnant, there's no menstrual cycle, right? Many women, when they're nursing, they don't menstruate. So there's
Wait, hang on. You're permitted to sleep with your wife while she's pregnant.
yes,
Why not?
yes.
She's your wife.
No, but
If she gives consent, go ahead.
it's a
It's
different.
nothing to do with consent. It's to do with halakha.
Right, yeah, that's permitted, correct. So, in any case, only 2 days are prohibited, correct, yes. Okay, it's a good thing you're learning, that's what you're learning for,
Yeah,
okay?
all these years,
Yeah,
all these years, all these fast days, I treated them like
Tisha B'Av.
Tishba, except the only difference is I would wake up at 4:30 or something to eat.
No, there's differences, other differences than the duration of the fast. It's much shorter, but also the laws are different. Another difference, on page 130 at the top of the page.
Gosh, that could have been so much better those days.
Another difference is that pregnant and nursing women must fast on Tisha B'Av. Only illness renders one exempt. On the 3 minor fasts, however, even pregnant and nursing women who are not ill are exempt from fasting because when the Jewish people originally accepted upon themselves to fast on these days, they were lenient with regard to pregnant and nursing women, exempting them from fasting. That was another question I got yesterday. Shoot WhatsApp, Shaila on WhatsApp from a former student of ours, wife was pregnant, and so we're in touch also, and it's really nice. And she asked me, does she have to fast? I said, you have a pass. Pregnant women are not obligated to fast on the 3 out of the 4 minor fasts, right?
And the 4 is
The 4th is Tisha B'Av.
Tisha B'Av.
Tisha B'Av, they do have to fast, unless they feel sick.
So Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av.
Yom Kippur is biblical, for sure they have to fast.
Unless they feel sick.
No, even if they feel sick. Yom
Wow.
Kippur, you really have to get to danger to life.
Well,
Sounds very
meant
metal.
more of a kind of danger to life. For the
Sorry?
child, not for her.
Right. It's more complicated. There's rules about it, but just telling you that this is
Is the baby
halachic
considered, is the
question.
baby
of
considered
that.
alive?
Later on, at that point.
No,
After
no.
40 days.
As I said, it's a
After
little more
40 days,
complicated.
After 40 days?
Preferably, now here, because it gets a little bit more, you could not kick yourself so much. If you look at the top page 131, it says as follows. Preferably, one should be stringent and refrain from bathing in hot water during a minor fast, but one may bathe in lukewarm water for the purpose of cleanliness. During the fast, it's also inappropriate to cut one's hair, listen to joyous music, or shop for things that make one happy. Bottom line is we try to not be too festive and luxuriously taking a long bath. That's not the right time. Technically, it's allowed, but that's what he's saying here. So if you didn't bathe on the other fast days, you were being machmir with good reason.
I didn't bathe today.
Is that why the Zilberman Yeshiva doesn't
That's
learn?
nice chumrah. You don't have to.
Is that why the Zilberman Yeshiva doesn't learn on Tisha B'Av? Because it's supposed to be sadness, they're taking away the learning?
Correct. There's a law that you're not allowed to learn in a regular Torah study on Tisha B'Av. Correct. Number 3, turn the page to 132, the prohibition, the duration of the minor fast. The minor fasts last from dawn until Tzeit Kochavim. When the 3 medium stars are visible in the sky, there are different opinions as to when exactly Alot HaShachar occurs. The first dawn, either when the first light appears in the east, when the sun is 17.5 degrees below the horizon, or a short time later, when the eastern part of the sky is illuminated and the sun is 16.1 degrees below the horizon. So there's 2 opinions. When did the fast start this morning?
4:50 a.m.
That was the earlier time.
5:15.
That's the later time.
Was it
That's
15 or
exactly what
18?
he's saying. I don't remember,
I
but
think it was
I was sleeping.
4:55 to 5:18.
4:36.
So 4:55 is Machmir, 5:18 is the baseline.
right, correct. So that's he's going to say in a minute that it's a rabbinic
Is it
fast
5:19?
and you can be lenient. Sorry,
Okay.
5:19. That's
Is that
what
what
Chief
this
Rabbin
one
says.
says?
That
I don't know who that is,
I think it's the more lenient opinion. Likewise, now is going to answer your question, David. There are also 2 primary opinions about when Tzeit Kochavim occurs. When do the 3 stars come out? Either when experts or those with excellent eyesight can see the 3 stars. That is translated into when the sun is 4.8 degrees below the horizon, or when average people can see the 3 stars and the sun is 6.2 degrees below the horizon. So we see that there's 2, he's simplifying it. There's a lot more reasons, a lot more opinions about when exactly the precise moment of the 3 stars is set. And technically, I'm going to skip a paragraph and move on to the second paragraph on page 133. Halacha follows the more lenient opinion because these fasts are rabbinic enactments. However, it is best to be stringent. Since we're already fasting all day long, it's preferable to add a few extra minutes in order to fulfill our obligation according to all opinions. And that's, David, why you were seeing the different times
Yeah.
for when Tzeit Kochavim is. The more lenient opinion is, and technically you're allowed to eat, I believe it's today, around 5 o'clock. You're
4:59.
4:59. I'm sure that's what they're basing it on. But if you want to be machmir, the extra few minutes for a different definition of Tzeit Kochavim,
Do we have to
he
do
says
the
it's
Arvit
a good
first?
idea. The Arvit is a separate issue.
So what's the
Arvit
later
is a
time for
separate
today?
issue.
The later time for today?
The machmir time for today, well, let's take for example when Shabbat comes out. When did Shabbat come out?
Five.
We're also waiting for Tzeit Kochavim, for Shabbat to come out. We're machmir for Shabbat because it's a Doraita law, right? So everybody says Shabbat is not out until 35 minutes after sunset. If sunset's at 5:40, it's easy to calculate. So around 35 minutes is 5:15.
Do people
Right,
have
so
to
5:15, that's when Shabbat is out. If sunset is 5:42, so it's gonna be 5 next week. I think it's 5:17. So it's very easy. That's the 35 minutes, which is standard for the more stringent opinion. Of course, there's always Rabbeinu Tam, which is 72 minutes later. That's a whole different world. But for fast days, the common custom is not to wait until Shabbat is out 35 minutes after sunset. Therefore, you don't have to wait until 5:15 to eat tonight. You can eat even 20 minutes after sunset, which is where we get the 5 o'clock,
4:59.
4:59, something like that.
So we can eat before Mariv.
You can daven Mar before that. You can daven Mar after that.
No, but they're
Usually-
definitely Mariv at 5. So I
Yeah,
can
but
make
you only
it.
start eating at 4:59, so.
Technically, you
No,
could
they'll
grab
start,
a
they say
bite.
5, it'll be 5:05 probably.
You could grab a bite.
So I can
if
grab
you
a
really
bite to
need
eat before Mariv.
Yes, you could. Common custom is not to, but you could. There's no Havdalah, it's allowed. Yes. it is.
Is there a minhag on what to eat after?
No, there's not.
Drink water.
Whatever is healthy. Drinking is more important. I could use the drink right now. It's okay. No, there is a custom to make a festive meal at the end of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is a tradition. That's the day of the redemption. Also, Mashiach is born on that day. Maybe he'll come on that day. So, but we don't, and we can't celebrate it yet. So we push off the celebration until afterwards. There is a custom, and on the end of Yom Kippur also, there is a custom to make a festive meal because we're happy that we were atoned. But the other 3 fasts, I don't know of any custom about specifically. You just eat because you need to eat and to be healthy, but and of course drink. But I don't know of any specific. Okay, but we're talking about after fasts.
So regarding the right of fast of Yom Kippur with the pregnant woman, is it her life and the baby's life, or only the baby's life that is where the nuance comes in about whether she can eat the
We're careful about the baby's life as well.
but in Pikuach Nefesh still applies to her as well, right?
Incorrect.
How come they used to fast for Ezra's death but not for Moshe's?
Good question. I don't know. Okay, let's continue. For those of you flying, it's very interesting that you can have a very short fast. If you fly towards the sun, then you're going to be having a shorter fast. If away from the sun, you have a longer fast. And you think about that when you're booking your flight. Let's keep going. You know already about number 4, eating and drinking before dawn this morning. Did anybody wake up early and eat before 5 o'clock?
In fact, I did.
You did?
I did.
I woke up at like
Good.
Yeah,
Good. Good, yeah. You did also.
Coffee and some cornflakes, it was nice. Mommy
Okay.
joined me.
I had yesterday night masala leish
Wow, okay.
until 2 a.m.
Pretty close to 5 o'clock.
Why did you like
Wait, what is he with?
Basa.
Oh, me.
So you guys are all sinners.
Yeah, it was good.
What do you mean sinners?
You're not allowed to eat in the morning.
Sure you are.
I went back to sleep.
Let's read page 134, section 4.
No, when we ate, you couldn't have done tefillah yet, so it was okay.
No,
Yeah.
I
no.
thought as long as you went to
No.
bed with kavanah to eat, it would be okay.
Sorry, you sinners. Let me read the halacha. It's okay, you're probably all right. Even though the fast starts on page 134 at the top, section 4. even though the fast starts at Alot HaShachar, one's prohibition to eat sometimes begins the night before. That's why I called you all sinners. Namely, if one had in mind not to eat anymore before the fast, it is considered as if he accepted the fast upon himself and may not eat anymore. Therefore, if one went to sleep the night before a fast and woke up before dawn, he may not eat, since he had already taken his mind off of eating. However, if he stipulates mentally, better actually to say it out loud, but if you stipulate before going to sleep that he will eat if he wakes up before dawn, he may eat, because he's not yet accepted the fast upon himself.
So
I imagine
I'm not a sinner.
You're not a sinner.
I did
You
verbally
did.
say, and I affirmed it on my cell phone because I set an alarm for 4 a.m.
Moshe, you are such a holy
And you
Jew.
told the
I
whole
know.
class you were going to as well.
Amazing, that's right.
I'm the most humble guy. I'm the most humble guy.
You are, I take it back, you are not all sinners. I'm sure that anybody who ate, for sure, Thomas was he didn't even go to sleep till after he ate. We're talking about anybody who did finish his meal and went to sleep, he just happened to wake up in the middle of the night. Watch out.
So
You're not allowed to eat.
I read with drinking that since it's assumed that somebody, people.
Oh,
is
good,
that what's coming
good.
up
That's
next?
the next paragraph,
So,
yes.
never mind.
so this act of saying I will wake up early and eat right before the fast, does this apply to all of the fasts?
Yes, except for Tisha B'Av where it's 25 hours. Yeah.
I mean, right,
And going
right,
before we're 25.
And Yom Kippur, of course, yes.
I mean, like right before the fast begins, you can.
All the other fasts, which are only in daytime fasts.
Oh,
The night before, it starts when you go to sleep, if you don't stipulate otherwise.
So have a nice, good, hearty dinner or
That's usually good enough, yeah. Especially for Sarah Tevet, the fast is over at 5 o'clock, you know. It's another 5 hours, actually, less than 5 hours. Who's counting though, right? This applies to eating. I continue to read on page 134. With regard to drinking, however, the poskim disagree. According to Ramah, one may drink before dawn, even if he did not explicitly stipulate before going to sleep that he would do so. Because many people drink water when they wake up. Therefore, if he had in mind to drink, if he wakes up before, it is as if he had in mind to drink if he wakes up before dawn. Shulchan Aruch, however, maintains that there's no difference in eating and drinking, and only one who stipulates before going to sleep that he will drink some water when he wakes up before dawn may do so in practice. One who wants to drink before the fast should stipulate mentally that he will do so. But, b'diavad, what does that mean?
Second best.
After the fact, one who wakes up before dawn and is thirsty may drink, even if he failed to stipulate this. Okay, so far so good, yeah?
Quick question, you said about flights. I did one last year, Tish B'Av. Problem was the sun never fully set. I was able to get an answer on one leg as we were pulling out of the gate from a rabbi, but he said that was for that occasion. What would be the correct, if the sun never sets, what would the time you be? Would you go by the local time, the lowest it gets? Would you go by when the plane took off? Would you go by where the plane's based out of? What would you use as your basis?
I'm gonna use the cop-out answer. What's the answer? It's always right. There's a machloket.
So it makes you lenient, right?
No.
The Rabbanan.
You ask a particular question with a particular circumstance. It's hard for me to just talk about all the variables without knowing the specifics. So, okay, let's go on. Rinsing one's mouth.
What would the rule be, as a general rule, if you?
General rules from sunset to sunset.
So if the sun doesn't set, does the fast continue for 24 hours until you see the sunset, or just to where it goes the lowest?
David, I'm saying I'm
Okay.
not going to relate to it. It's a very specific question. It's not for now.
Okay.
There's lots of there's books written on the topics. I can't really. I can show you books in English and in Hebrew. Many books written on this topic about what to do with the change of times and the daily mitzvot. I have a brother who lives in Sweden. That happens daily occurrence in the winter time. So I can't give you a simple answer on one foot. Yes.
So as you said, Rob, Tisha B'Av is the only fast, where it's 25 hours, is Yom Kippur from sun up to sundown as well.
And Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, two of them.
Yom Kippur is also 25 hours.
Also, yeah. It works out 25 because you start at sunset, you end when the stars come out.
Yeah, but it's closer to the center of summer, which is why it's slightly long, by I think seconds.
They're both pretty long.
Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av are both 25 hours. Simple answer, 24.
Yes, 25. Number 5, rinsing one's mouth, lechatchila. What does that mean?
Means you take water and you swish it around your mouth.
What does lechatchila mean?
Oh, it means the.
It's a Hebrew word.
worst case scenario.
I think if you look in the back, there's a glossary. Everybody turn to page 380. 85? 80. Yeah, 385. He translates lechatchila as ab initio. Does that help anybody?
Yes,
What's Latin, right?
yes.
What does it mean?
It translates to basically, I can't tell you exactly what it is.
So if you read on page 385, the line that starts with the word
The
lechatchila,
level of performance that satisfies an obligation in an ideal manner.
it's the ideal way, the best thing. Lechatchila, and the opposite of what we just read before is b'diavad. Turn to page 382. B'diavad, it's in the middle of page 382. It's the one that comes before 383. I see the page number is lost. A level of performance that ex post facto, you guys are going to learn Latin as well as Hebrew, and after the fact, satisfies an obligation in a less than ideal manner. So these are terms. It's before the fact and after the fact. Ideally, you should strive to do the lechatchila, the ideal manner of performance. But b'diavad, there is a lesser, lower level of performance that satisfies the obligation, even though it's not in an ideal manner. Lechatchila and b'diavad. Some people say instead of b'diavad, b'di'evet.
Yeah.
Proper grammar, in Aramaic grammar, is b'di'avad. Avad means to do, and b'di means when, or after it was done, basically. B'di'avad, when it was done. So after the fact, you didn't stipulate before you went to sleep that you're going to get up. What's the law? I woke up now. Can I rely on the Shulchan Aruch, on the Ramah, or do I have to go to Shulchan Aruch? He says one may be lenient. Let's continue to page 135. Take a few more minutes. And the age-old question is coming up soon. What happens if you forget and you eat something? Okay. Number 5, rinsing one's mouth. First of all, that's important to know, especially when you're in a dorm and you're in close quarters with others. The big question is, can or should you brush your teeth? Rinse your mouth with mouthwash. The bad breath is a consideration, but can you put water in your mouth? It's a fast day, and this is already after sunrise. So let's see what he says. Lechatchila, one should not wash his mouth on the minor fasts because there is a concern that one might swallow drops of water. Shua and Ariel, the little talking is disturbing because of the echo in the room, so let's try to keep it down. However, one who knows that he has bad breath may wash out his mouth because he has no intention to drink, only to clean his mouth. Still, should be very careful not to swallow any water. One may use toothpaste in order to clean out his mouth thoroughly and remove bad breath. So, bottom line, he paskins on the minor fasts. You are allowed to brush your teeth if it's to stave off the bad breath. And it might even be a mitzvah, as I said, in some context. On Tisha B'Av, which is a more stringent fast, there's an additional problem of washing oneself. Therefore, one should be more stringent on Tisha B'Av, and unless it is very necessary, one should not rinse his mouth. Only one who would be greatly distressed may wash his mouth and brush his teeth without toothpaste, even on Tisha B'Av. On Yom Kippur, however, one must fast by Torah law. One may not be lenient in this regard. I wouldn't give a heter to brush your teeth on Tisha B'Av for most people because you're washing. If it's in your mouth, you're washing. We don't wash on Tisha B'Av unless there's some specific, some people have issues. Dental hygiene is complicated as well. But the bottom line is, you're allowed to brush your teeth if it's for the sake of bad breath on the minor fast days. Let's keep going to question number 6. We have 2 minutes left. I think this is a question that it does happen. Unfortunately, people forget. They took a drink. They had a candy bar in their briefcase, and they pulled it, or in their under the pillow, whatever it is, in your pocket, and you, lo and behold, you were hungry, so you opened it up and you took a bite. What do I do now? It's a fast day. Let's take a look. Page 136. One who accidentally eats drinks on a fast day must continue fasting, because these days were instituted as fast days due to the distress that we experience on them. This is a communal fast day. You got to keep with the program. Even if one eats or drinks enough to be viewed as having broken his fast. There's a certain measurement. We're going to see that if you eat that amount, you can no longer, you're not considered to be someone who's still fasting, and thus may no longer recite Aneinu in the Amidah. We're going to see that there's a section in the Shemona Esrei that we add. The prohibition on eating and drinking still applies to him. Got to stay with the program, with the community. After all, one who committed one transgression is not then permitted to commit further transgressions. You know what the expression in the Talmud is for that? Somebody who ate garlic and has bad breath. Should he eat more garlic and have even worse breath? So the obvious answer is no. So that's the more poetic phrase of what he said. One who commits one transgression is not permitted to commit further transgressions. In such a case, one does not need to make up the fast on a different day, though. So it's not like, even if you did eat, you don't have to make it up. Because we are obligated to fast specifically on the days that the sage is established for fasting. Despite this, some people have a custom to accept upon themselves another fast to atone for the fast that they broke, but one is not obligated to do so. It is better to atone by giving more charity, studying more Torah. The poskim disagree about the case of one who forgets that it is a fast day, recites a bracha over a cup of water, and then remembers. What do you do? Good, that's what some people say. As long as you have the corrective of blessing God's name, then the fact that you took God's name in vain, essentially by making an unnecessary bracha, can be compensated for. Other people say, maybe it's worse to say God's name in vain, which is a biblical violation, possibly, than drinking on a fast day. Yes, Malti?
But after that, first say smell only from the wine. So will this be a solution?
No, because the bracha is only upon imbibing it, but it's for drinking. Smelling water doesn't really help, even if it had a smell. That wouldn't be good enough. You wouldn't make a bracha on drinking. If you make a bracha on an apple, you smell the apple, doesn't qualify. So let's see what Rav Melamed says. Some say that one is prohibited to recite a bracha in vain by Torah law, while drinking on a fast day is only rabbinic enactment. Therefore, special will take a small drink in order to prevent oneself from violating the prohibition of reciting a bracha levatala. What's a bracha levatala? In vain, as he said, right in a few lines before. Others maintain that it's most Rishonim maintain that reciting a bracha in vain is a rabbinic prohibition. In the end, you're not taking God's name in vain and just swearing, right? You're saying a bracha after all. You were blessing God's name, so if it's true you didn't eat the apple, but you said nice things about God, so it was praise. So it's still prohibited, but only rabbinic. It is better not to drink at all. In addition, it is improper to correct one transgression by committing another. It seems that one should follow this approach. Don't take a drink. Rav Melamed weighs in on that side, but as you can see, it's a debate between the scholars. What's the best approach? First thing to do is try to be careful. Not only the laws of kashrut, what goes in your mouth, but also what comes out of your mouth. Don't just go saying blessings without thinking about them before you be well aware of what you're doing. And try to stay aware and not say any blessings in vain. Okay, sick people are exempt from fasting. The next section is I'll just try quickly to cover that. For example, I have a headache. I've had a headache for a couple of hours now. I don't know why. Guess I didn't drink enough. I did drink last night before I went to sleep. And I made a condition in case I woke up, but then I didn't wake up in time. The truth is, I was up, but I didn't think of it. I didn't eat. But I guess I didn't drink enough last night because I do have a headache, and it's quite annoying. Am I allowed to break my fast?
No,
But I'm sick.
you're not.
No, we're not safe.
No,
Not sick.
suffer.
You have no compassion.
Well,
I mean, that's not relevant. That's not relevant.
Passion. No, follow the halacha and mitzvot. If you're gonna die, then it's
I'm glad you guys are not my rabbi. Let's take a look. Let's see what he says. The prophets and the sages instituted, I'm on page 137, section 7. Prophets and the sages instituted the fast for healthy people, not for sick people. In this, Yom Kippur differs from all other fasts. In Yom Kippur, even sick people must fast, as there's a Torah command. Only those whose lives may be at risk if they fast are exempt, since saving a life overrides the Torah commandment. On the other fasts, however, which were instituted by the sages, anyone who is sick is exempt from fasting, even if his condition is not life-threatening. In general, one is considered sick. So define how sick. I have a headache. Does that mean I'm sick? Hirsch says no. What does the halacha say? Let's see. In general, one is considered sick if his pain or weakness prevents him from continuing his normal routine of life, forcing him to lie down. Am I teaching?
Yeah.
I'm keeping up my routine even though I have a headache. I'm not considered sick, according to the halacha. For example, those who suffer from the flu, angina, or a high fever do not need to fast. Almost everyone, now he tries to talk about a little more, to be a little more explicit. Almost everyone experiences headaches and weakness on fastings, and most people find it easier to spend the day in bed than to continue to function normally. Sometimes one who's fasting feels even worse than one who has the flu. Nonetheless, this is not considered a sickness, but rather the natural effects of fasting, which will pass within a few hours after the fast is over. Therefore, only one who needs to lie down because of an illness is exempt from fasting. One who is suffering from the fast itself, however, must continue to fast, even if he prefers to lie down in bed due to his weakness. One is only exempt from the fast if he becomes so weak from fasting that he actually becomes ill. This is a chumrah. It's a unique position of Rav Melamed. Not all the rabbis make this distinction between illness which comes because you're fasting or some kind of illness which is independent, which is defined as a sickness which you have to lie down for. Other poskim just say, bottom line is, if you're fasting, you start to feel bad, so bad that you can't function, you can eat because that you're considered ill. It doesn't matter what caused that illness, bottom line is, if you can't function, you're ill, even if it's because of the fast. So this is a little bit of a chumrah for Rav Melamed, but it's an interesting question. Let me just finish it off. He says, examples of people who don't have to fast at all. If you know that it's going to cause you to become sick, because you've tried this before. Somebody who has diabetes says he can't fast. Somebody with severe migraines, for example, is exempt. It might cause you to get a migraine, and then you'll be sick. So you don't have to bring yourself to so there's a lot of questions to rabbis about these type of things. But if you are exempt from fasting, then you eat a full meal, drink whatever you need. Just don't have delicacies. No ice cream today, guys. Okay? If you're eating because you're sick, still no pizza and ice cream. That's for fat. That's for happy, fun things. Yes. Now, last questions.
What if it resolves? So somebody you're saying somebody has a severe headache. They can't go on because they've been fasting the water. They have some water. They're not feeling better.
They should fast.
They resume the fast.
They should
That's my
resume the
question.
fast. That's what we read about. Okay, we'll stop here. You got another.
Blessing or the special name?
After you've eaten, no.
Okay.
After you've eaten, you don't say this especially. Have a good fast. Have an easy fast.
It's a fast. This is a fast.
Have a fast fast.
This is the fast.